Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Impressions video, and today we're going to be talking about this game right here on the PS Vita. This is Tokyo Shinsei Roku Operation Abyss, and this has been, I don't know, poorly translated as Tokyo New World Record Operation Abyss. Tokyo New World Record is the stupid part, but it's just a poor, like, what we call a chokoyaku, which is like a direct translation, which doesn't take into account the meanings of the words, essentially. But yeah, we'll go with that because that's what people have been referring to it as, but whatever. Not important. Operation Abyss. What is this game? This is another first-person dungeon crawler made by Experience. Experience, if you don't know, also made Demon's Gaze, Students of the Round, Labyrinth Cross Blood, all of which I've talked about on my channel before, so if you've been watching for a while, you probably know what I'm talking about. But those games are all, games I enjoyed pretty much. So, I got this new one, and this this new one was supposed to come out in January. Originally, it was supposed to be developed by published by Cyberfront, and Cyberfront went out of business like a month before the game was supposed to come out, so obviously they lost their publisher and it didn't come out on time. Like, I remember pre-ordering this game last year, and it finally came out with a new publisher, Mages 5BP, who usually does like Steins Gate and stuff like that, Chaos Head, Noah, and games like that. But yeah, they published this game and it came out at the end of July, so I played it for a while, and now I'm talking about it. So, here, first thing I want to talk about in this game is the most disappointing part of it. And the most disappointing part was that I thought it was a new game, and it's not really. It's essentially a remake of Generation X 1 and 2. Generation X is like a PC game, I think it's from 2007. Made by Experience, but it was kind of, I want to say it's one of the first things they did after they left Microsoft and started Experience after they lost the Wizardry license. And that it kind of shows in the sense that, like, it's very Wizardry-like. There's a lot of classes in the game. They're called Bloods, which is like a kind of bloodline in the game that you select the classes of the characters, and you can change it throughout the game. It doesn't really matter. But the Bloods work as classes, so you have your standard kind of Wizardry classes. If you played Wizardry X, you'll know the classes. You'll be pretty familiar with most of them because they act in the same kind of way. It doesn't have the same kind of depth as that, though, in the character creation, because you don't have races. Everybody's a human. But you do have the Bloods, which the Bloods, actually, there's usually two types for each class, depending on like your alignment. So sometimes you'll be able, if you're like evil, you can't select some of the Bloods. If you're neutral, you can select some, and if you're good, you can select some. And there's a lot of crossover, so it's not like you have to be good to get this one. Sometimes it's like good and neutral, and sometimes it's neutral evil, and sometimes it's just evil or just good or just neutral or whatever. But this game is essentially a remake of those first two games, Generation X 1 and 2. It's weird that they only did those two, but because there is a Generation X 3, and you can get them in a collection on the PC. So it's the kind of thing where, you just, I don't know, you kind of wonder why they didn't add it, but I guess it doesn't really matter. But anyway, this is a remake of those games, and that was kind of disappointing because I was expecting a new game, and then I started playing it, and I'm like, I've definitely played this before. And for the most part I have, because the game isn't really changed all that much between Generation X 1 and 2. There are some changes, obviously. The character creation is different. You can kind of select between the normal style of Generation X, or you can use the new kind of character creation method that was in Labyrinth Cross Blood. It ends up being the same. It's just one you select a character portrait, and one you can like kind of design a character. That's like really the difference in the character creation. It doesn't affect the end character at all. Um, Another difference is that the all the not all the art, the character art has been redone, and some of the world has been modified to kind of fit more into the Labyrinth Cross Blood world. So it's kind of just a shifting of Generation X into the same kind of Labyrinth Cross Blood thing to make them match more evenly. That's about it. There is a kind of midpoint in the game where you get to and you realize, like, oh yeah, this is where the game becomes Generation X2. It's like pretty obvious, and they just kind of stitch the story together in a different kind of way that you know gives you a reason to be your levels and stuff. So that's about it. It also gives them a reason to wipe your memory for maps. I mean, that was kind of weird, but it does like erase all your maps that you made in the first half of the game. It doesn't reuse that many areas though, so it's not a huge deal, but you know what I mean. It's a little strange. But yeah, so beyond that being the disappointing part of being just kind of a remake of a game I had already played for the most part, let's talk about how it is, because I know virtually all of you have probably not played Generation X. I can think of Dornai, who has video on his channel. He's a guy always puts up gameplay of first-person dungeon crawlers, so definitely check him out. I'll put a link below to his channel. I've linked him before, so you should check him out if you're interested in first-person dungeon crawler gameplay of a more obscure type, I guess. So, anyway, this game, it plays like a wizardry game, so there are a lot of wizardry references. Even the bosses in the game are all wiz something. So you'll find like the main bosses are named after wizardry. It can't get much more obvious than that. So, and essentially you're playing this game as it's a first-person dungeon crawler. You'll go through, and you'll find that I found that I liked this game in terms of like some of the mechanics more than Labyrinth Cross Blood, and I think that's like just a matter of like they kind of got rid of some of the things that I didn't quite enjoy from the Labyrinth Cross Blood, like the incessant level capping. In Labyrinth Cross Blood, you had level capping all the time. It was like every 4 or 5 levels you had a new level cap, and you'd always reach it before you were kind of able to, continue on. So you'd always end up with like these high encounter dungeons where you'd be getting 0 experience every time because, you just the encounter rate was so high that like you couldn't not meet the level cap before clearing the quest to get the level cap broken. So it was like a little strange. And this game does have those same level caps, but they're at like they're fewer and farther between. So I never got to a point where there was only like one level cap I ever met in the game, and that was like the level 15 cap at the end of the first game. And that one is extra handy, and I'll explain why. Normally the level caps are kind of annoying, but in this game, obviously you don't start with all of all the bloods unlocked, and what'll happen is you'll be able to kind of create new characters or switch character classes. And when you get those towards the game, you're already at like level 10 or level 12 or something, and you're thinking like, wow, well, if I switch classes, this character is going to be at level 1. What am I going to do with him? He's not going to be able to fight at all. And what you'll find is that when you're at the level cap, the experience isn't lost if you have anybody who can get it. So what'll happen is if you switch one character or 2 character classes, and then you go fight normal battles with the character you're using, they'll get like 6 times experience or triple experience, depending on how many people have no experience in your party. And it means you can level up your new character classes ultra quick, like an hour or two to get to the same level, because you're getting like huge experience bonuses because everybody else is at the cap. So I found that actually pretty handy, because halfway through the game I switched a bunch of character classes and just leveled them up really quickly. So the level cap was actually like pretty helpful at that point. Whereas in like Labyrinth Cross Blood, there were so many level caps that it was just kind of a pain. And this game, generally it plays like a first-person dungeon crawler. It is a cyberpunk kind of first-person dungeon crawler, though it's not fantasy-based, although the weapons are. So, like, everybody has swords and things. It's kind of weird because, like, you'd expect more cyberpunk kind of weapons. Guns, maybe, or electricity weapons or something cyberpunkish. But nope, it's just your kind of standard axes, swords, knives, magic, that kind of thing. I mean, it kind of makes sense in the story, but, like, you'd figured somebody would be using some guns. But no, it doesn't happen. So, Operation Abyss here. The dungeons are actually pretty good in this game. You'll probably recognize some of them if you played Labyrinth Cross Blood, or, I mean, you'll definitely recognize them if you played Generation X, because they're the same. But they're set up in a way that they're kind of fun to go through. There's nothing, like, really annoying to them. There's no, like, that's not exactly true. I was gonna say, there's no, like, super teleport dungeons where you're always getting teleported around and you can't tell where you are. There is one, but it's not that hard. There's not like any dungeons that end up being, like, really frustrating. They're all, like, kind of puzzle dungeons, so you kind of have to do things, unlock certain doors and go through certain areas, but nothing is ever frustrating. And that being said, it doesn't have, like, the same kind of, I want to say it doesn't have the same kind of difficulty as I would have expected it to, in the sense that when I'm playing it, I never felt completely underpowered, even though, like, in the first part of the game I did reach the level cap, so I probably was at the max amount of power you could be, but it wasn't on purpose. I never, in the first half of the game, I didn't have to grind anything at all. And for the most of the game, I didn't have to grind anything at all. So it wasn't, like, really difficult. I just, set up a good party and set up a plan to kind of protect myself and defeat bosses. And that's, like, the reason that I like these kind of games, because if you're playing them correctly, if you're playing them in a way where you really think about how the characters work together, how the party works together, and their specific kind of move sets and spell sets and whatever, you can kind of get through the games pretty quickly, and you can kind of have fun with the bosses, trying to figure out what is the best strategy to beat them. And this game had a lot of that, because I think when I can almost guarantee that when I got to the end of the game, I was way under-leveled, because the level cap in the second half is level 40, and when I got to the end boss, I was about level 25, and it was the worst part of the game was the last boss. The absolute last boss, there's, like, kind of two last boss, but you can beat one and then go to the final one. And what happened was, I got there at level 25, and I didn't even really have that much trouble beating the boss before that. And then what happened was, I got to the last boss, and it was like, yeah, it was like almost instant death every time I tried to fight. And I realized, like, I'm under-leveled, because, like, all the monsters in the level are, like, level 37 or something, and I'm level 25. So, what I found was that I had to grind up some levels, and I had to grind up about 3 levels. And this is important. The 3 levels thing is important, because when I went to level 28, you unlock the last tier of spells, and once you unlock the last tier of spells, there are spells that are, like, essentially meant for you to fight the last boss. Like, there's almost no reason to use them in any other cases. I mean, some of them are, like, wide damage attacks, so you can use those anytime. But, like, some of them are like, okay, prevent enemies in the back row from attacking you. And it's like, you almost never have, like, so many enemies and so many like that you wouldn't be able to destroy really quickly, that you would have to use that spell. And there's like range break or whatever that would like that's the spell, like prevents people from attacking from anything but the front row. And there was another one also, I don't remember what it was, but there were two spells that you get at the highest tier that were like made the boss easy mode, even though like previously, and the boss was like much higher level than me. It's just when I went there at level 28, when you have those spells, essentially you've like cockblocked the boss from doing anything. There's like 3 rows of enemies in front of you and the boss, and once you use range break, it can't attack you. So it's the kind of thing where like you just kill everything, and then the boss will be in the front row, and you can kind of wail on it. It was really easy after level 28. At level 25, or anything below 28 without those spells, it was like instant death, because the boss would hit you from the back row for like 1,000 points of damage, which is enough to kill like someone immediately. And you can't you couldn't do anything about it. It was just the kind of thing where like you have too many guys in front and the boss is just killing you and you can't attack it. And then like just those spells like pretty much flip the entire game. It's kind of a weird situation where like everything up until then was really easy, not really easy, but like on a kind of level that was at least challenging, and then like but doable. That's the thing. It was challenging, but like not so challenging that I felt like this is totally wrong in like power level compared to everything else in the game. And I guess that makes sense because it's the last boss, but like it wasn't even realistic until I got to level 28. So it was the kind of thing where like I felt like I had to grind that. I had to grind at the end to get to those last set of spells, which was stupid. I thought like, well, it should be possible for me to beat the boss, but it's like essentially not. So that was like one of the downsides to this game. Beyond that, it looks nice. The kid, it's voice acted. The character, all the character kind of portraits have been changed, and you get some characters that show up from Labyrinth Cross Blood. You have the same kind of setting, and you have the same kind of setup where like you have your base is at the school, and you have a kind of like a lab where you can develop items from codes. So like you can, it's like a crafting system based on finding items in the dungeons and building new weapons, and that's pretty helpful. I didn't even like get the most powerful weapons because I didn't have a need to. But generally it was a pretty fun experience overall. If you haven't played Generation X 1 and 2, I'd recommend it. If you have and you're just like, I want to play those again, well, this is a good option because it looks better, it plays a little smoother, and you can play it on the Vita, which is always a benefit. So yeah, that's about it for Operation Abyss. Good times generally, but somewhat disappointing only because it's a remake and not a new game. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. It took about 40 hours, I think, to beat the whole thing. The games aren't that long, really. I probably could have done it faster had I not... If I didn't switch character classes and I didn't need to grind those last 3 levels at such a high level, it probably would have finished in, I don't know, 30 hours. It would have been much faster. So it's not even that long of a game. So if you're interested in it, definitely pick this up. It's probably not playable if you can't read Japanese, though, because there's so many crafting things you have to do. But I guess you could muddle through it. It's not really like a huge deal. I didn't even mention the story, actually, but it's not incredibly interesting. It's pretty similar to things that like there's a lot of side quests and things that show up that are like finding people in locations or like killing certain monsters and that kind of thing. And the main story is somewhat interesting towards the second half, but I wasn't like captivated by it or anything. The story was like not important to me at all in this game, and I didn't care about a lot of the characters. So that kind of probably is a negative point, but it was still fun. I don't usually play these types of games for the story anyway. So, yeah, generally that's about it. Labyrinth Cross Blood, it was, not Labyrinth Cross Blood, Operation Abyss, it was pretty good. But, again, I still think Labyrinth Cross Blood is better. But, hopefully, when a new one comes out, it'll be a new game and not a remake of Generation X3. But, yeah, that's about it. I will see you guys next time.